wonderful Neil Harvey. Neil is a serial entrepreneur who has transformed both business and himself many, many times. He is a creative inventor, and he also has his own podcast. Neil, welcome. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's very exciting. First, really easy question is, where in the world are you?
Right now, I am in my home office. I put the green screen up behind me so you can't see what a shambles it is. And I'm just north of London in a university town called Hatfield.
Wonderful. Do you know what? This is a completely side topic. I went to Durham University, and one of the colleges was called Hatfield, and we all hated Hatfield College. And I couldn't even tell you why, but you meet anyone from Durham and they're like, what college did you go to? And if you say Hatfield, we're like, oh, they know it's coming as well. They're like, oh, sorry, I went to Hatfield. It's terrible, but no reflection on the town.
It is an odd town. But I've been here more than 20 years. Well, crikey, I've been coming up 30 years now. And I have my own little ecosystem, which I love. So
wonderful.
I'm very happy here.
Well,
yeah.
I think the dislike of Hatfield College has no connection to Hatfield the town, just to make that clear to anybody listening. So as I said, you've done many, many different things. Let's go back to where you started. What was the first thing that business-wise that you did, or rather the first job you had, and where did that take you?
Well, my very first job was joining the Royal Navy, which was a big surprise because, basically I didn't know what else to do. When I was 6, I knew what I wanted to do, which was to be an inventor. My great-grandfather was a pioneer out in Kenya in 1908 or something, and I met him. We spent 2 years there. My dad was in the RAF. We spent 2 years there. I don't remember any conversations with him, but I remember him hugely inspiring me because when he went there was nothing. There was just bush. And he built a church because he was an architect from Norfolk. He founded a school, which is still today a thriving school because he had 4 daughters. He had to teach them somehow. And people said, well, if you're teaching your daughters, can you teach mine too?
Amazing.
He was the first person to grow tea commercially in Kenya. He saw the tea bushes grew as ornamental bushes. So he thought, we could do that. So he and a mate brought in 10,000 seedlings and then worked out how to do it. So he's the grandfather of the tea industry in Kenya.
Gosh,
so he hugely inspired me.
That is quite the legacy.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. He died at 97, and he was born before the invention of the motor car, and he died after man had landed on the moon. How about that?
That is
one lifetime. When it's put like that, actually, man's accomplishment in terms of technology is really quite staggering. One lifetime.
My grandmother died at 93, and she was amazing, but she was always like so excited by all the changes. And she used to say to me, I wish I was younger now so I could do all the things that you can do. And she did, in fairness, do a fair few of the things that I did as well. But so much change.
Every generation says that.
Yeah, probably.
And they also say, what's the world coming to? It's falling apart.
That's also true. Yeah.
I remember the headmaster at school reading, the youth of today are vagrant and a shambles and ill-disciplined and rude and then he looked up to us all 16, 17-year-olds looking at it, oops, we're in trouble. And he said, and that was written by Cicero.
There was actually a really clever article I read which captured exactly that. And it had basically every 100 years, someone had said the same thing about how the youth of today aren't anything. And it was the same message from the dawn of written time.
It's right, yes.
We've come a long way, but maybe not as far as we think we have in some areas.
Yes, quite. I always think that every time I look at the M25 when we're parked up with miles and miles of traffic both ways of stationary, and I think, you know what? It's taken 2,000 years of civilization to create this. That's awesome, isn't it?
Maybe going back to the horse and cart would have been more effective. I don't know, sometimes. Anyway, so going back to you, so you want to be an inventor, but you joined the Royal Navy. So
yes, well, the sixth form put up a pie graph of what everybody should be or wanted to be when they grew up, and the inventor wasn't there.
Outrageous.
My little brain at age 6 or 7 or whatever, I always thought, well, I can't be an inventor then, and the dream died. And so then I had the interview at school. What do you want to do when you grow up? When you leave school? And I said, I don't know, sir. And this is how to sell a job, Pippa. This is how to sell a job. And he said, what what's your A level? So I said, sciences. You could be you could be a microbiologist. So what do they do, sir? Well, look at baked beans down microscopes and watch them go mouldy. Seriously, I'm not joking. Sold.
Wow.
Yes, a career watching that. I said, anything else? I said, you'd be a doctor. I said, no, not really. He said, then he pulled out his ace card and his trump card, and he said, you could always be a vicar. So I said, I'll think about it, sir. And my uncle through marriage, his father was a rear admiral, something in the Royal Navy. That looked like it. That's a pretty cool job. So I thought I'd join the Royal Navy. I'll be an admiral. The ranks between joining an admiral will be a bit tedious, but deal with that.
It's just a process you've got to go through.
Yeah, I had a wonderful time in the Royal Navy. Did all sorts of amazing, exciting things. Went in a submarine, not a nuclear one, a diesel-electric submarine from Loo in the south of England up to Scotland, and went on an aircraft carrier and had 6 weeks in the fast patrol boats, the Norwegian fast patrol boat squadron up and around the fjords in northern Norway. That was amazing. We drove there in a London taxi. Me and my Oppo, who came and joined me, decided we'd drive there, and we're not going to go in a Ford. So we bought a London taxi at University in London and drove all through Europe in a London taxi. We got some wonderful looks as we sort of drove up north. Yeah.
What fun. And also what a typical Navy thing to do, I have to say.
Oh, well, one weekend we drove it to the North Cape. So I've driven a London taxi to the North Cape. So
amazing.
I think that's a claim to fame. Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah. Anyway, whilst I was at university, because they sent me there, my flatmate recognised that I spent all my time making things. And in the beginning of the final year, he said, do you realise you spend more time making things than you do studying? And I said, no, I don't, all defensive, because I had to justify why I was there. And he said, yes, you do. He said, look at it all. And he pointed around the room with all the things I'd made. Do you remember the flying ducks?
Yes.
The mallards.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was rather taken by that. So one of the lecturers, I made a model of one of our lecturers in a flying position like Superman and had 3 of those on my wall. Flying Willets, they were called. I can't remember his first name. I want to say it's Peter Willets. But anyway. And funnily enough, we had an alumni meeting a few years ago, literally about 4 years ago. And one of the guys who was at university with me said, yeah, I've still got one. I said, what? 50 years later.
Oh,
that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Anyway, he looked at me and he said, do you realise you can make a living making things? I said, really? And he said, yes. Why don't you talk to Vanda, my girlfriend's cousin, because she makes stuff for the theatre, for films, for television, for shop windows, for all sorts. I think you'd be really good at it. And he walked out. That sentence, Pippa, changed my life. What he did, which I didn't realise, what had happened when I was 6, the sixth form did not give me permission to be an inventor because it wasn't on that wretched pie chart. I remember to this day the disappointment when I couldn't see inventor on that pie chart. Isn't that silly how our little brains work? And then he gave me permission.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think, but also it's really a powerful testament to how important it is to watch what we're saying to children.
Yes. To anybody.
To anybody. I mean,
I was 21 at the time.
Yeah. It's the layers we get and the direction we get from people when they say what you can and can't do stuff. The reason I say children is obviously between the ages of 0 and 7, like you're a little sponge, you take everything in. Yes. And if someone in that period goes to you, you're not good enough, you can't do stuff, that's carried with you.
Yes.
But conversely, again, as you've pointed out, when your mate came in and went, you can be an inventor, you can get paid for this stuff.
Yes.
That was the validation. So words, we say sticks and stones can break our bones, but names will never hurt us. But I don't think that's true, because words we really take to heart and we do carry with us.
Yes.
So it's a really important lesson for people to understand.
Yes. I'm just going to have a quick glass of water, excuse me.
That's okay.
So, I was at university in London. So I went to the Yellow Pages, which of course was a bit like Google these days, except you could build a staircase with them in London because there were so many. And actually anyone who doesn't know what Yellow Pages are, it's a book of adverts and references for businesses. And I looked up special effects, and there was somebody in Clerkenwell, which was about 10-minute cycle ride from where I was lodging in in Angel, Islington, North London. So I rang this person up and said, I'm thinking of leaving the Royal Navy to do what you're doing. Can I come and have a cup of tea, please? And he said, sure, come on round. So he made a date. I went round, walked into his studio, and oh my goodness, Pippa, I had walked into heaven.
Aww.
It was true. There, what in the corner, I don't know if you've ever seen Raiders of the Lost Ark. There's a snake that does that.
Yeah.
It was there in the corner. A massive rubber and Bowden cables to make it work for the puppeteers. There was huge coffee beans looking at the screen, there we are, about that size, which were models of coffee beans, because they didn't have CGI in those days, which were mounted on the board, which were going to rotate and then the camera was going to pan up to make it look like coffee beans falling in slow motion. He'd made those. He said, we'd made the guns for Outlander, which has starred Sean Connery. He said,
Sean Connery, I remember that.
He said the guns were the carburettor out of a Mini with a butt and a barrel on it. He said, they look really cool, don't they?
Yes.
Oh, so I thought, yes, this is the life for me. But then what to do? Actually, here's another thing on the subject of words. What words do you say? What oneself says. I had a mentor who, whenever I said something that she knew I didn't mean, she'd look at me and she'd say, is that what you want? I said, no, of course it's not. They said, well, don't say it then. They're like, okay. Because after that meeting, I went to a party, met someone who played the cello, invited her over to come and play music because I could play the piano. She lugged this cello all the way from Kensington to Islington. And Glynis Tunnicliffe, if you're listening to this, I cannot thank you enough for doing that mammoth task. In about 3.5 seconds, it was so obvious my sight reading skills were absolutely appalling. And so while there was still, and she was concert level, so while there was still dignity in the room, I decided to, as a distraction, to show her all the things that I'd made, which she was very nonplussed about. And then I said, I'm thinking about leaving the Royal Navy to do this professionally, and I haven't told anybody. And I hadn't. She was the first person that I told. And she said, oh, really? And left it at that. We had a very awkward lunch, and then she left, and I thought, oh, God, that's so embarrassing. Next morning, Pippa, 11 o'clock, the phone rang. They were attached to the wall in those days for anyone listening that doesn't know that. It's by a bit of wire. And she said, hi, Neil, I've done some research at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama with my friend Angie Smith. Angie Smith, if you're listening, thank you so much. She said, they're starting a prop making course here at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama. It starts this September. Closing date for application is tomorrow. I have the application form in my hand.
Aww.
Do you want it? I said,
wow.
I'll be there in 10 minutes. I cycled down. I went for the interview. I was the only student on the course at the Guildhall School of Music and Drama for the year. I had the most amazing experience. Went to the Royal Opera House, in the prop shop there, the theatre, the National Theatre. I went to the film school at Beaconsfield.
Oh, wow.
And years later, my brief was, make yourself busy. 2 weeks. That was 1983. In 1991, I met up someone who's been there at the same time. I said, what about so-and-so? What about so-and-so? What about so? Oh, yes, he's a tax exile. Yes, he's Mr. Pop King. I said, it was a really good year, wasn't it? And she said, yes, it was. I said, and there was a little guy in a small little room who was pushing plasticine around, and it was about a man and a dog going to the moon. And it was all made out of cheese. And he was in a rocket. I said, whatever happened to him? She looked at me like, what planet are you on? That was Nick Park.
Yeah.
He won an Oscar with that. I went, I spent the afternoon with him. Oh, my goodness. So
amazing.
Yes, it was great. And then my tutor took me on, and I had a fabulous 15 years learning how to make things for the theatre. That was my goal. I wanted to be an inventor. I needed to learn how to make things. So I found a way of doing it by becoming a prop maker for the theatre. We put Phantom of the Opera into Her Majesty's Theatre in 1986. It's nearly 40 years ago.
That's
I was
amazing.
2 at the time, you understand. And
yeah. You were smart for a 2-year-old, yeah.
Went to, fitted it up in Basel and Hamburg and Stockholm. Calgary. It was just I had an amazing time.
Sounds like such fun.
It was. You never knew what was going to come through the door. It was 2D in, 3D out. That's how I described it. Freelance workshop. And it was an amazing experience. So anyway, my mother didn't like me doing it because it's working in fiberglass. And of course, you get the dust and the fumes and so on. So she was a very shrewd woman. And for my 30th birthday, she gave me a round the world ticket.
Oh, wow.
Which I refused because I was too scared.
Oh.
But when I was 31, I went around the world.
Oh, brilliant.
I took it, and it worked, because when I came back, I thought, oh my goodness, there's so much more to life than scrubbing fiberglass on a workbench. But now what? So I started looking around for something else. And then in the late 90s, I answered an advert saying, crew wanted for corporate event team building. I rang them up and said, what's a corporate event? So they told me some cock and bull story and elaborated on what it was. All right, that sounds really cool. So turned up. I think we were paid £30 a day, having to get there at 6 in the morning and got home at 11 at night. But it was such fun. But what they were offering, I thought, could be so much better. So transformed again. And actually, I missed out a bit, because whilst I was doing the prop making, I was using my skills to make toys, invent toys, because I wanted a royalty income from toys. I got 5 in front of toy companies. I found an agent who represented me, and at the end of my 20s, I had earned nothing. I'd spent thousands of pounds making on patents and information. I had spent hundreds or thousands of hours making things, and never had a television, because that's a time thief. And anyone looking at me in my early 30s would have thought, well, that was a waste of time and money, wasn't it? Now, fast forward to the turn of the century and the corporate event world. I learned what happened, what people are looking for in terms of a corporate event, recognized that I had the skills and the imagination to make something that I considered to be far better perceived value. And so I started my own company, and I created a whole load of corporate event activities like never been seen before. And over the last 20 years, those activities have turned over literally millions and millions of pounds.
Amazing.
And none of that would have been possible if I hadn't done what I did in my 20s. Because if you look at the workshop or the storage areas where all those games are, concepts that I developed in my 20s are scattered amongst them in disguise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think I've always said this about my career changes, is that each job, each career has led me to the next one. And it's part of that learning, growing thing. But you couldn't plan it. You couldn't put a little chart, going back to your pie chart on the wall of what you're going to be. You couldn't put it on the wall and go, well, if you do this, you'll get to that or get to that, because it doesn't work that way. But I think it helps you to go, well, what am I good at? What do I enjoy? What do I understand? Where do I want to go? And I think that can be the most fun thing about life, is that you don't have to do in your 30s what you did in your 20s. But for some people that's scary, right? Because that's a completely shift from what they kind of taught to go, which is, and I think it's changing now. But obviously when we went to school, it was a case of get an education, get a job, work, retire, die. And now it's a case of, well, actually, I am very appreciative for my education. I was very lucky to get an excellent one. It hasn't necessarily directly led me to where I am now, and I'm okay with that, because I learned so much along the way, and that was part of the learning journey.
I'm now doing Airbnb, so that's my full-time income for my own home. I'm in a university town, and I have a lot of students come through. Normally they're actually graduates, postgraduates, people doing courses, specialist courses, so on. And I often find that I can't help myself, but I give what I call them my TED Talk. And I actually have, there's one guy, he came in 2017, he came between university lodgings. He stayed a month because it's 11-month contract. They have a month to fight in between, then go back. And during that month, he'd come and stay with me. And he came the next year. Did the same thing, came the next year. And that's it. Eventually I said, his name's Shubham, and he knows I talk about him behind his back, because I've told this story before, and he's heard it, so I'm okay about that. But I said, Shubham, why do you keep coming back? And he said, because I learned so much from you.
Oh.
So it wasn't just the fact that it was a cheap room. And then we had lockdown, not good for an event company. And then after lockdown, he came and helped with the recovery of getting things going again. And I gave him a task of cleaning hundreds of plastic tubes to get the sticky sellotape off. He did removing sticky sellotape gunk off tubes for about 3 weeks. I deliberately tried to catch him out on the phone, shirking, having a cigarette when he shouldn't, and all that sort of thing. I didn't once. And I was thinking, who is this guy? And since 21, he's been an employee
Amazing.
of the team building company.
I hope he's not.
I'm seeing him today.
I was going to say, I hope he's not still like cleaning tape from pipes.
No. He's very much a key figure in the operation of the business. So he's done really well, and it's just so rewarding when that happens. It really warms my heart. But one of the stories, going back to your point, one of my repeated stories, when kids come through the house and they're going, well, I'm thinking of doing this, and basically they're saying in code, I don't know what to do next. I say, right, have you heard of the expression, knock on the door and it will be open unto you? And they go, yes or no, it doesn't matter. I say, look, and I go and stand in front of the kitchen door. I said, there's two things you could do. First is you could do this. And I just stand there staring at the door. And then I look at them and go, what's going to happen? And they say, nothing. I said, exactly. Now, and then I start hammering on the door saying, now I'm knocking on the door. What am I doing? And they say, well, you're taking action. Yes. Now, when I'm taking action, over and time again throughout my life, when I've taken action, it has not been this door that opened. It's been that door. And I never knew that door even existed. And I'll tell you why. And they go, okay, when you're doing this, you're taking action. When you're taking action, you're worth watching. And the catch is you do not know who is watching you. And only because you're taking action are you worthwhile helping. And that's why they open the door you're not expecting to help you. So it doesn't matter what path you don't need to know the path. You just need to do the next step, which is take action. I took action and made those little models and everything. And it was Glynis who recognized what it was and opened, because I'd taken the action, it was she who opened the door for me. I didn't even know there was an existing making course anywhere. It never crossed my mind. Just get the point. And so many people just think, well, I need to do this, so it's going to land on my plate. No. When I was making the toys in the 20s, I was also told, I had twigged by then, that if you want something, talk to somebody who's already got it. I like to say, don't ask the butcher how to make candles. He'll give you an opinion, of course. He'll be very good at candle making, but I personally wouldn't follow his advice. Ask the candle maker how to make candles. So I was on holiday with my parents and their next door neighbour, who happened to be a millionaire. I knew that. When we were on the coast of Kenya, gone back to see my grandmother, and she and I said to him, John, this is where I'm at with my toy making. I'd love to ask you some advice of what to do next. Now he had been watching me taking action. He knew what I was doing because the family talked about me all the time. His response was, I'll back you. How much do you need?
Oh, wow.
I said, John, no. That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for advice. I'm not asking for money. He said, yeah, I know that, but how much money would you like? And how can I help you? Because I'll back you. I refused. I felt so embarrassed. But I then changed my mind later. I went traveling, as I mentioned before. And when I came back, he sponsored me for 5 months. He paid me £1,000 a month on the premise that if it came to something, I'll give it back and give me a thank you. And if it came to nothing, don't worry about it. He said, I help people wherever I can, and yeah, it'd be nice to help you. I managed to get what I was developing on back in front of the toy people that I was targeting through an agent, so I didn't mess it up like I had before. And it came to nothing. But you know what? Years later, I thanked him for what he did, not for what he did, but because what I developed during that time is one of the games in the portfolio of the team building company that has earned hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds.
Amazing.
And I would not have been able to do that if I hadn't done what I'd done with him.
Yeah.
And in fact, he's now 80, well into his 80s, and we had a party 2 months ago, and I took his wife aside, and I got a bit emotional and sort of tears in my eyes. I gave her a big hug. She was going away, and I said, "You know, what John did for me all 30 years ago meant so much. It was not just the money; it was the belief. It was the belief that he put in me by handing over the money. The money was the tool that he used to give me the belief I needed to go forward." Does that make sense?
Yeah, borrowing someone else's belief. I had this conversation actually yesterday. I was on a customer site, and we were talking about the need when you're doing change of a transformational level in the corporate world. You sometimes need someone who can hold the belief for others while everyone else catches up. And I think that's the same in whatever situation you have, which is sometimes other people can see your potential better than you can. And
definitely
having them hold that belief for you while you go through the process is such a powerful gift that I don't think you realize at the time until you've had the chance to reflect and go, that made such a difference. I didn't get the outcome I wanted necessarily, but actually I got a better outcome in the longer term.
Yes. It kept me going. It bridged that gap where I might have given up, and I didn't.
Yeah.
And something similar happened. My uncle was sadly he passed away about just over a year ago, but he was really three times in my life he was brilliant. He knew exactly when I needed his support. The first was when I was going into the Royal Navy, and he gave me a waterproof watch. Oh my goodness me. The waterproof watch, going to sea with a waterproof watch. I mean, what more does a young man want? I was so proud of my watch. This was my rite of passage, into manhood with my waterproof watch. It meant the world to me because I couldn't afford one. My mum couldn't afford one. Dad never even thought about it. And then when I was doing the toys in the early days, my uncle gave me £500 to help me with a patent. My goodness me. The fact that somebody gave me £500, and this was 1984, something like that, £500 is a lot of money.
Just when you're only 3 years old.
Exactly. And then he did it again in 2015. Because in 2015, I'd smelt that the company was, the team building company was not in a good place. And so I thought, I need a second income because I'm getting bad vibes. The three of us who ran it, we were all equal, except one of the three was more equal than the other two. So that was something had changed and it wasn't working. So I was he gave me £500 again under the Christmas tree. I was so embarrassed because I was well into my 20s and I was well into my 50s, and someone giving me money was rather embarrassing at that age. I should have worked out my finances by then. Don't need to point it up that I haven't. And I didn't know what to do with this money because I didn't want to pay off a credit card or anything because that made £2.50 a month difference, And I was talking to my neighbour across the fence, and she said, "So how's it going?" So I said, "I'm really worried about my finances." And she said, "Have you heard of Airbnb?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I have." And I gave her a lecture. When I paused for breath, she said, "Well, have you thought of doing it then? You've been talking about renting out your spare room for as long as I've known you, which is 10 years, and you've never done anything about it." I went, "That room needs a whole overhaul, and I've got £500 to do something with, to overhaul it with." So I spent the whole of January doing that, refurbing the room, setting it up, listed it on the 31st of January. on the 1st at 10 o'clock at night. On the 1st of February, I woke up at 6 o'clock, someone had taken the room. That
Amazing.
person stayed with me as a weekly boarder for 15 months. And because he was only booked for 2 weeks, he kept on staying and not leaving. I'd booked out the room to other people, so I had to find another room for him. And so slowly he moved around the whole house, converting the whole house.
And I'm guessing he didn't mind.
No, it was great. And then in 2017, in March 2017, by which time the Airbnb business had been running for 15 months, we had a bit of a boardroom shuffle, let's say, at the end of 2016, and then the early 2017, me and my business partner thought we'd saved the company, but it's a slight wobble with the signing of stuff for Brexit and so on, and corporate world shrunk a bit, and suddenly we realised we couldn't pay the wages. So we had to liquidate the company, which we did the 1st of April. And overnight, suddenly me and my business partner were £500,000, well, we weren't actually, it's £400,000 in personally guaranteed debt.
Oh, gosh.
Which is not a good place to be.
No.
Then we had to buy the company back from the liquidators, so we had to raise another £100,000 from friends and family, because we couldn't borrow from any lending institutions because we owed so much to so many with so little as it was. So we did that. We managed to raise another 100,000. So we then £500,000 in debt. And that was 2017. So we shrank, we reformed, and Ben, who's my business partner, is the most positive bunny on earth. And we just said, okay, what do we do now? And we just focused on what we could control.
Yeah.
We had experts. We had a really good advisor on how to handle the whole debt management. And one of the key things was, he said, keep talking to everybody. Never go quiet on anybody you owe money to, because they'll start making assumptions. So that was a big lesson. So we literally would ring up and say, right, this is the situation. Will you accept this to help? I can't remember specific examples, but we did that. And he told us how to interpret what the bank was really saying about the repayments and so on. And then he told us when they meant it. so we didn't mess that up. And we were chuntering along until 2020, of course, when we had COVID and lockdown. Can't do events. We were still £300,000 in debt. Not a good place to be in.
Not at all.
So now what? Had to transform again to that, and we had to go online.
So by this point, did you? Before we get to that bit, so you'd already spent 3 years basically trying to pay off this debt and living in that situation, and I think it's something a lot of people worry about. Far lesser amounts of debt, and you know, each person's situation is unique. But what kept you going in terms of going, oh my God, just like, it must have felt overwhelming some days. Was there ever, how did you manage that sort of mental stress as well as the actual financial burden you had?
First of all, we knew that we were genuinely doing everything we possibly could. One thing we did is we listened to mentors. So we listened to people who'd been through it before. The other thing, speaking personally, is that I had my Airbnb business going up. It was running very well by then. Now, the summer of 2017 should have been the worst summer of my life, given the circumstances. Actually, it was the best summer of my life. It's not life, but best summer of this decade.
This period.
Yes, yeah. And I say that sincerely. And the reason was because I had to when I came home, I had guests to look after. Therefore, I had to focus on them, which meant I could not sit in the corner and suck my thumb about the situation, because if I did that, they'd all run away. And if I was going to be talking about what was going on at work, I chose to find the funny side of what was happening, and I would entertain them And by so doing, I took the sting out of the situation myself.
Yeah.
So focusing on others when you're in trouble, obviously focus on the problem and what you can do, not what you can't do. That's no point in doing that. Focus on what you can do and focus on others and help them. I had, there were 10 French students came over from an aeronautical college in France. And about 2.5 of them stayed with me, and about 5 of them sort of gravitated on a regular basis. So throughout the summer, we had croquet matches, we had parties,
Oh,
we had.
wonderful!
I spoke French for 2 months.
Oh, that's a brilliant. How's your French now?
Well, what was really surprising was I thought at the end of it, I said, yes, I can speak French, I'm fluent. But then the next French person came and started speaking to me in French. I'd trained my tongue, but I had not trained my ear. And I didn't know you could do that. And I was shocked. But anyway, that's beside the point. We just had a blast. Actually, they're very, very good at, because they were all to do with vectors and maths, because they were aeronauticals, they were very good at croquet. And my goodness me, they played for 4 minutes and I played for 40 years. And they jolly nearly beat me, but I just could not accept the French beating the English at croquet.
I mean, there's a long history here. We can't move on from that. I totally get that. I mean, we don't want anyone else to beat on the French. We don't want anyone else.
I've got a bit of.
That's quite all right.
Bit of a cough there. Yeah.
We don't want anyone else to beat the French, but us. Like, you know,
exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's how it works. We know that.
That's exactly. We love to hate each other. We had an absolute blast. That summer was amazing, and yeah. Right. Okay.
So where
do you want to go? Where do you want to go from this story?
We're now at the pandemic, and we think we're doing okay, but then the pandemic hits.
Oh yes, thank you. Now, there is there's a book, Atomic Habits. I'm sure you've read it, by James Clear. Anyone who hasn't read it, I thoroughly recommend it. And he says that we all have habits that we don't know about. And habits are shortcuts in life that we adopt. The thing is, some of them pull us forward and some of us hold us back. Some of them hold us back. But therefore we need to work out what habits we have, analyze which way it's pulling us, drop the ones that are holding us back, and amplify or add to the ones that are pulling us forward. Now, I've always thought I've been so lucky in my life. Just like Glynis turning up. How lucky was that someone from the Guildhall was able to offer me a course? And but in the light of James Clear's book, I was thinking, well, maybe it's not luck. Maybe I'm doing something that is creating the luck. I was thinking, well, what am I doing? And I looked at every time in my life where I have been lucky. And I boiled it down to 2 things, 2 habits, which I have actively adopted and forgotten about. One is, how can I add value to everybody all the time? How can I add value with no expectation of reward? Because someone once said, how do people feel when they leave your presence? Do they feel better about themselves or worse about themselves? The choice is yours, and both are easy to do. Just saying thank you, just literally saying thank you adds value to the other person. Anyone can say thank you to someone else.
Yeah.
The second habit was change contact details so that both parties can communicate if they need to. I invited Glynis back to have a concert over lunch because I was intending to add value to her and have fun, that she played the cello, I played the piano. As it didn't happen, but that doesn't matter. The intention was there. I had also exchanged phone numbers so that she could ring me to offer me that opportunity. And that's happened time and time again. Now, Christmas 19, my niece's boyfriend was invited over and we had a family gathering and I met him. And I asked him what he did, and he was a geek. Quite a good one, apparently. I'm a plywood man. I make stuff. I don't program stuff. But I was thinking, how can I add value? How can I add value? Drew a blank, swap numbers, At Christmas, he rang me to say, can I take some presents over for the family because he's not invited, but he'd like to. I said, yeah, sure. So he came over here and I said, right, come on, we're going to have a meal and you can tell me what you really do. And I've got a hotel here so you can stay the night. That's absolutely no problem. So he did that and he really told me in depth what he did. I was really impressed. Still no need for a geek. 3 months later, March 2020, what did I need?
Well, there we go.
A geek. So I rang him up and proposed a project which I'd conceived that could be done online. I said, would you be willing to program it on outline the concept? Would you be able to program this on a profit share basis because we don't have any money? And he said yes. And he did an amazing job. And my admiration went through the roof to what he produced, and it still is. And because he proved himself, we then said, could you do this event for us for Zooms? And he created basically family fortunes for us. So everyone went into a Zoom room with one of our presenters, and then they had the setup with our survey says, we call it the title of the game. And it was amazing. And we had people from Australia, from Russia, from Canada, from Bulgaria, all playing in the same room.
Oh, wonderful!
Playing family fortunes. It was a huge hit. Then I said, "Can you do Cluedo?" So he said yes. And so everyone went into a Zoom room, and then on their phone, wherever they were in the world, they would move their avatar around the room. How do you do that? I know. So we were ahead of the game while everyone else was thinking, oh, this is only going to be 3 months. We were just, because we had to.
Yeah.
We had to generate income. We were £300,000 in debt. So, and we doubled our marketing. We promoted, we gave showcase after showcase. We were just taking action. And in October 2020, we had 3 events in our calendar between then and Christmas. That's not good, by the way. And we were thinking, what more can we do? And then second lockdown was announced and the phones melted because of everything we had done. And in the first 3 weeks of December 2020, we did 137 events online. We turned over £320,000 in 3 weeks. Anyone who could spell computer, we employed them. And in February, we got the debt down to £60,000.
Oh, wow.
I borrowed $30,000 from my sister. He borrowed $30,000 from a friend. And between us, we cleared the aggressive debt and made it friendly debt, and then cleared it over the next year privately.
Gosh.
Now, how was that the case? That was because I was trying to add value to John. Why did John turn up? That's because my niece felt comfortable to come and show him off to me. Why was that? Because she's lived in Africa with the youth, and when she came over here, her parents are still in Africa, my sister's still in Africa, and when she came over here, when she was 13, schooling over here, I made a decision to add value to her by every year spend 1 day at her school making her feel special. That was my goal. That was a deliberate goal, and I was the only member of the family who did that every year, right through to her graduation at Durham, as it happened.
Oh, excellent choice.
And that was noted. So, of course, she wanted to show off her boyfriend to me.
Yeah.
Because she felt comfortable to do so because of what I'd invested in her. So, was I lucky? Yes, it was. But was it luck? Well, you make up your own mind.
I mean, I do think luck is a combination. There is this thing as luck, I think. But I think a lot of luck is hard work and consistency. And it suddenly pays off. And I totally agree that taking action is the thing that makes the difference. But and it's the easy example, isn't it? Is like these overnight successes that are never overnight. There is hard work and years, and very, very few people have those unicorn moments where it really is their first idea that goes well. Most people have a lot of work before they get to the big idea, as you have.
Yes. I had a guest who was a university lecturer, and she was a regular. She kept on staying. And when she heard that we were trying to raise an extra 100,000, out of the blue, and she's my guest, she said, I've got £10,000 you could borrow. I said, what? And I can't accept that. You're my guest. She said, well, why not? I said, well, You're my guest. She said, it's not doing anything for me in the bank, so you might as well use it. I went, oh, no, I couldn't. I can't. I'm sorry. And she said, well, if you change your mind, this is similar. It sounds like a record hit. If you change your mind, let me know. So I changed my mind. And I said, look, I cannot accept it for nothing. Can I give you 5% interest? And she said, no. So she said, it's not earning me anything in the bank. Why should I benefit from your misfortune? You can have it for nothing. I said, I cannot accept it for nothing. And then she said, all right. She capitulated. She said, give me a week's free nights.
Oh, bless her.
I said, okay, 7 free nights. She said, no, I only come for 3 nights. So you can give me 3 free nights and you can borrow the £10,000. I said, you're amazing. So I accepted. She transferred the £10,000. I said, right, do you want a guarantee? And she said, no. I said, we'll just keep a piece of paper what the balance is. So we did. Every time she came to stay, I'd write it down. In fact, I found a piece of paper about 3 days ago in the back of my little mini safe, and I'm going to treasure that for what it represents. And every time I had spare cash, I would pay her, and it took me about a year to pay it back. And when I gave her the final tranche, I said, why did you do that? There was nothing in writing. There was no guarantee, no promises, nothing. It was just a piece of paper with a balance on it. And she said, well, when I saw the situation you were in, and I saw what you were doing to make whatever you could to get money in, you split the master bedroom into 2 rooms. You were prepared to sell your own bed and sleep under the table, which I did. She said, you did everything. And anyone who's prepared to take that amount of action to make something work, of course I'm going to get my money back. I went, I had no idea.
That is...
And yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I do think, so I'm like you in that I feel that I'm very lucky, but I also know that I do the work. But I think there's a mindset thing. Like, I naturally am very positive, and it's not to say I've never had bad stuff happen. I mean, I got hit by a car living in Russia and, was very seriously injured, but I don't see that as a bad thing. That was just like oh, well, how can I learn from this moment? Don't be careful of drunk drivers. But I think the mindset thing makes a big difference, though, to also how you treat other people. So I don't go around thinking that everyone's out to get me. And as a result, I've never found anyone who's out to get me. Because I don't think they are.
Yes. Yes.
And
first question I get about Airbnb, because I've had over 2,000 guests. I've had tens of, hang on, more than 10, way more than 10,000 guest nights. Okay, in the 9 years I've been hosting. And the first question people ask is, have you ever met anyone you didn't like?
Yeah.
And I go, no.
Okay.
And why is that? Because just like you're saying, everybody who walks through that kitchen door is my best friend coming to stay.
Yeah.
And they are.
Yeah.
When they leave. The next question is, have you had anything broken or stolen? To the broken, I say, does anything get broken in your house in a year with 4 of you living in it? And they go, yeah, of course it does. I said, right, we'll multiply that by 3. Of course it does. Have you had anything stolen? And until 2 weekends ago, I could say no. Unfortunately, unfortunately, they stole a rubber duck.
Oh, well, souvenir. Souvenir to remember you by.
Yes. I know. Well, it was just, I can't say I've never had any stolen. So.
of value, maybe, then.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I do, you treat people how you want to get treated, and things do go wrong. And some people don't always have your best intentions at heart. But I truly believe that most people aren't actively out to do other people over. I think what does happen is we get so caught up in our own troubles that we don't think about our actions and the impact on other people. And that's why you sometimes get these negative events. But with the vast majority of people are just doing their thing and aren't willfully being malicious. So that's what I believe. Yes. And as I said, I've never been proved wrong yet, so you can't tell me I'm wrong, because that's my world.
Yeah, I'm in the same world, Pippa. I totally agree with you. My mum always used to say, people will live up to the expectations you have of them. And it's true.
Absolutely true. Absolutely. And I see it. I mean, I with my therapy clients, I'm very careful about who I take on, because obviously with therapy, you want, like, I can't do the work for them. They have to do the work. And so what I'll always say to them is that I am here to help you through that journey, but I cannot do the work. And every person I take on has done the work and is in an amazing position. But there are people I haven't taken on, not because I didn't want to, because I knew that they weren't ready to do the work. But once you've had that conversation and they're understanding that actually therapy isn't about sitting in a room and talking, it's about also, taking action, like all things are. Some are ready for it, some aren't. And the ones who are ready never fail to perform.
Yeah.
So,
well, I've got a podcast about being an Airbnb superhost. That's what it's called, actually. The Airbnb superhost. That's my. Oh, thank you. That's my latest career, and 40 episodes are out now at this timestamp, and it's been a real pleasure to share the journey. I ask people, I haven't actually asked this on the podcast, but when I meet people in the face, I say, what do you think the number one skill is when hosting? And they go, whatever the answer is. The actual answer is people skills.
Always.
And I was once told the value that you are paid is directly proportional to your ability to deal with people. In other words, your people skills. And the first person to receive £1 million wage packet was one of Andrew Carnegie's employees, was not because of his ability to understand the steel industry. It was his ability to make the steel industry work. In other words, get everybody working together as one unit. That's what he was paid for. And that's people skills.
Oh,
and my podcast is all about teaching people skills.
Yeah.
I dress it up to make it look like I'm teaching you how to be an Airbnb superhost, but you need to be good at people skills before you can do that.
Do you know, I used to teach for the Association of Project Management, management for the qualifications on the apprenticeship schemes, and the exact same conversation I've had so many times about project management, because everyone goes, well, I have to learn how to do finances and how to plan and to do benefits. I was like, yes, but you need to get the people. Because none of that stuff is going to work if you haven't got peoples with you. And I used to, and I always say it, there's like spreadsheet project managers and there's people project managers. And the spreadsheet project managers invariably, not everyone, to be fair, but invariably their projects go wrong because they're focused on the process and the data and not the people. The people ones, they don't always have the most up-to-date risk log. They don't always have the most swish reporting. But I tell you what, they get it delivered. I'm going, which one do you actually want? Some shiny shelfware or the job done? And it's the same in every profession. There are technical things that you must learn, but if you can't get the people with you, if you don't understand people, then eventually you will stop being successful because the people won't be with you on that journey.
Absolutely. And, when we reformed the company in 2017, it was only about 5 or 6 of us. And we started a book reading program amongst the employees. And Ben and I would buy a book, we'd pay for it, and we pay our staff to read in our time for 15 minutes. That's
amazing.
And every morning, we spin the wheel, and whoever the wheel lands on has to talk about an insight from the book. And every time somebody says something about a passage that I remembered and had read, they gave a completely different interpretation to what it is. But here's what happened. Everybody started to align their thinking and have the same language, have the same understanding of what a phrase meant. There's a book called The Fred Factor, which is all about customer service. And there was an occasion when the internal customer service was not up to somebody's standard. And rather than having a showdown or feeling awkward about the issue, the person just looked at the offender in his eyes and said, well, that wasn't very Fred-like, was it?
Amazing.
Job done.
Yeah.
And it worked. And here's the serendipity. There has been no churn.
Wow.
Why? Because, and the staff have actually told me this to my face, the reason is we don't want to leave because we know that you are invested in our futures.
That's wonderful.
That's huge.
Yeah.
loyal staff. I mean, what does every company want? Loyal staff. Well, invest in them.
Yeah. What was the old thing of...
Sorry?
So the old thing, was it Richard Branson saying, was asked, what if I train my staff and they leave? And it's like, what if you don't train your staff and they stay? You know, you have to invest in people.
Yes. And it's just something simple like that.
I love that. I might borrow that idea.
I'm sure if you've got 200 people to insist that they all read for 15 minutes and you provide books, that might be a little bit more of a challenge. But certainly for a startup and a small company, good to great, the Atomic Habits, the Fred Factor, the Checklist Manifesto. I mean, the list of books goes on and on and on. Everybody just grows. A company cannot grow bigger than the thinking of the people running it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So boost the thinking of the people running it.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Book reading program.
I always used to try to employ people who were better than me or smarter than me so I could learn from them. And I still hold that, because also I can't be good at everything. And whatever role, when I'm in corporate or when I'm in the army or whatever as a therapist, I can't be good at everything. So let me find people who are better at me at those other things, so I can focus on things that I'm good at, but I can also still learn as I watch them or as I work with them. And it's such a gift to be able to do.
Yes. Yeah. There's my right-hand man all through the prop making days, or the corporate days, Nick. He joined me in 2005 or something, and sadly had to leave at COVID. So he's with me about 15, 17 years. And we just had a running joke. I'd come up with the ideas, he'd make it, and he'd make it so much better than me. And then I'd claim it's my idea. So
that's teamwork of a variety.
And that was always with tongue in cheek.
Absolutely.
And then when he solved a very, very difficult problem, he'd get stuck. Then I'd come in with fresh eyes and unstick it, and then he'd move on. And then I'd just always say, "Yeah, Nick came up with that," and always pass my idea and make it his, so that he could take the glory for sorting out that particular problem. And he's sad loss, but we created some amazing stuff together.
Yeah,
just absolutely that principle of finding someone better than you.
So important. Yeah. Brilliant.
Yes.
I think we probably have to call it a day there, because otherwise we might talk for another hour or so. We'll just keep talking after this recording. Neil, if people want to find you or book your Airbnb, how can they find you?
The Airbnb Superhost is my podcast, and I'm also doing a load of Instagram and TikTok little insights into hosting stuff, which is predominantly amusing. Well, I think it is. It's meant to be. Superhost Neil is my tag, and the details are on the podcast notes. So that's
perfect
of how to find the bookings. But Hatfield, I'm in Hatfield, UK. So it'd be fun.
Wonderful, Neil.
And if you come here, you might end up in one of my TikToks.
Why not?
I've had such fun actually over the last couple of months involving my guests. There's one coming out tomorrow actually called Talking Double Dutch or something, because one of my guests is a Dutch voiceover artist.
Oh, amazing!
We just had such a fun evening, and so the editor has dubbed us both as we have a conversation about trying to work out who's talking.
Oh man, as long as you're having fun, which you are.
Oh, definitely,
amazing.
Yeah.
Neil, thank you ever so much. It's been wonderful as ever.
Thank you for inviting me.
And I will also see you soon, I know, offline for other things. So look forward to that.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you.